Well, welcome everybody, and welcome Tom Matzen. I'm so happy to have you as a guest. This is a one-of-a-kind interview I'm doing. I always was like, oh, I wish I had a podcast so I could bring Tom in because the topic is really hot. I always talk about how coaches need to learn how to do this, and I'm also very interested in this topic. We're going to talk about podcast guesting. Podcast guesting as a way to grow your coaching business, attract more clients. And I'm just going to start introducing you, but I just want to tell people how I know you. Many years ago, in another life, I used to run a company called the JV Insider Circle, and you came to one of my events. And that's where we met. You actually were a sponsor, and that was almost 8 years ago. And last week we met again, and I was so happy to see you, Tom, because it's very rare that I meet people in person that I also know online. So it was a pleasure to hang out with you for 3 days at the event. And you're very impressive. You have so many ideas and businesses. And there's one specific thing that you are currently, the area of topics that you are an expert on and that you've been really working on is podcasts and podcast guesting. So let me just first ask you, who are you and what do you do? I want to hear your way of introducing yourself.
Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate the invitation. It was great to reconnect with you and even share a hug. It's something that, Zoom doesn't quite accomplish the hug part, does it? It's not the same. Although it's amazing when you meet someone you know for years on Zoom, you do know them. It's not like you feel you know them, right? You know them.
The hugs are just a little bit better after you meet somebody on Zoom.
Way better. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and we love JVIC and JVX. I did it for several years. I was running the Strategic Alliance Summit at the same time, started a couple of years before, and I just thought it was such an incredible event because, if you think about it, for everyone tuning in, if you're a coach, a consultant, an expert, one of the fastest ways to grow your business is by having other leaders promote you to their audience. Right? That's what podcasting is, right? That's what radio is. That's what lead magnets or giveaways can be. They're a way for you to accelerate your reach, your impact, your influence, and ultimately your income in the process. And so I love it. I've been an entrepreneur for 38 years now, made and lost millions multiple times, 93 businesses, 10 of them to 7 figures and beyond, but most not to 7 figures and beyond. And a big part of what I've learned along the way are how do I avoid the mistakes that I did early on in my career, and how can we help other entrepreneurs get results faster? And podcasting is something that ever since it first started, I got involved in. I did a lot of radio interviews, a lot of TV interviews, a lot of press interviews. And this podcasting came along and I thought, oh, it's just like that. It's just like radio. And I learned very quickly, it's not just like radio at all. It's very, very different. And I'm sure we can dig in a bit of the story because it was pretty dramatic when I first learned that on the hard way.
Yes. I don't know the difference, but we're not going to get into it too much. All I can say is that I can always tell when somebody has a radio voice, like deep, confident, flow. I'm still having to get my ums and ahs out of my talk, but you seem to be like very confident and polished when you speak. So it's got to come from that radio hosting for years.
Yeah, a lot of radio background, a lot of interviews on radio. And as my mom would say, I have the face for radio. So thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom. I appreciate that. No, she never said that. That's just a joke.
Let's jump right in. So we talk about podcast guesting. So when you are a guest on other people's podcasts, give me like 3 top reasons for why coaches would want to do podcast guesting, Tom.
So the first thing is to understand that for most of us, we become a guest on a show because we think we're going to get some prospects, some clients, right? And from the audience, from the people listening in. And I got to tell you, there's over 1.2 million active podcasts. There are 4 million podcasts, but only 1.2 million have published shows in the last 90 days. The first thing to realize is that the vast majority of shows that start sputter out. And part of the reason is the shows aren't making money. So it becomes a passion play that's difficult to sustain. And then the next big challenge is we think it's the audience. Well, I learned when we were doing research for this business, when we bought Steve Olsher's New Media Summit and all of his assets last year, 29 downloads is the average of those 1.2 million shows. That means 50% of all the active shows have less than 29 people listening to them.
Wow.
So it's not about the audience. In fact, even when I got my first big audience show, they averaged 12 million downloads a show. It was this incredible JV Crum III. Some of your people will know JV Crum, Conscious Millionaire. This incredible show now, millions and millions and millions of downloads, over 100 million downloads. And I'd landed my first big show with JV, and we hit it off. We did our green room interview. We loved it. We went double time in the show. He plugged my lead magnet, which was my most popular lead magnet ever, multiple times. I mentioned it multiple times. And we didn't get 12 million downloads. We got 13.5 million. It was amazing. And I got 32 opt-ins.
I expected that.
32, not 32,000, which is what I thought I would get, right? Or 32 million or whatever. It's like 32 total downloads. And that's when I realized podcast is different. It's a different beast than radio. If I'd had 13 million listeners on radio, I know how many I would have got. But podcast is an intimate environment, right? It's not broadcast. It's like a one-on-one conversation like we're having here, much more like that. And so that started me down a path. I didn't realize at the time the solution that we now teach, thanks to Cheryl Pluff and her brilliance on this subject, but I knew that the conventional idea of it's all about the audience wasn't the solution. And so I began a journey to try and figure out what is the solution. And that's what we do now with all of our team.
Yeah, you're kind of putting the whole idea of podcasting and podcast guesting on its head for me a little bit, because as I was driving or flying back from the event that both you and I just attended, I was thinking, oh my God, I met so many amazing people. I wish I had a podcast to interview them and give them exposure and build my audience and grow my email list. But I don't want 32 opt-ins from 13 million.
So kidding. And yet the idea is excellent, because what happens in that 20, 30, 45-minute discussion is you get to, if you choose to, you get to know more about them, what drives them, what challenges they've had in their life, what they're working on now, what's exciting about where they're going. You're building what you and I would call in JV world a high trust relationship. And that's actually the number one benefit of being a guest in a podcast is you get to, if you do it right, you get to build a high trust relationship with the host. And if you have a show and you're listening to this, you get to build high trust relationship with your guest. Number one benefit. It's not the business spin-off stuff. That comes more sequentially later. It's the building of that high trust relationship, especially if you get strategic. And I know we're going to talk about that because you guys are coaches. You want to be able to get clients. You need to be strategic about the time you make. It's always great to build high trust relationships, but if it's not strategic, if it's not what I call 1 + 1 is 11, right, then it's not really worth your time to do it, frankly.
So it seems like there's a lot of factors to creating a winning podcast where you have a large audience and everybody wants to be on your podcast. I don't necessarily want to do a podcast. I want to be a podcast guest, but I always saw that as an opportunity to get exposure and those opt-ins to my lead magnets. You're saying, Milana, you can't do 7 figures from a podcast audience. So where does the money come from? Where do the opportunities come from? You started talking about that as a relationship building tool. Say more about that.
Yeah, we call this the triple P monetization strategy. And this is how you make money off your guesting. I've done 7 figures as a guest. We teach people how to build 7 figures leveraging their podcast. Oh, hello, thumbs up sign. That's funny. The Mac, it gives me the automatic reinforcement. Thank you, Mac Pro. That's funny. So here's the key. We call it triple P. The first P is your patrons. The second P, I know you're not supposed to give the list out in advance, but I'm a note taker. So if you're a note taker, the first one is patrons. The second one is partners. The third one is platforms. We can talk about each of them because they're the key to actually monetizing your podcast or your podcast guest experience. Same thing, right? Patrons is the first one. Most people know that as your clients, right? Sharing your clients' successes. So, if you've got your own show, you can interview your successful clients and they talk about all the results they've got and how amazing Milana is and how amazing Tom is and how they helped me overcome all these challenges, right? Most people know that already, but it also gives you a platform to go even deeper with them and talk about their challenges that they've overcome, humanize the experience, right? It's very different than radio. Radio, you don't get a chance to do that hardly at all, right? I love talking about mistakes I've made and the lessons learned from it because, frankly, I'd rather you learn from my mistakes than your own mistakes. It's way less painful. And I've made and lost millions multiple times. Some of those lessons are so powerful that you could hear a piece of it and go, oh, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I'm going to learn from that one. and also my experience, because I've been at this so long and worked with over 10,000 businesses, you're going to learn that mistake one way or the other.
Right.
One way or the other, you're going to learn it. So you might as well learn, in my opinion, from other people's mistakes rather than your own.
So say some more about the partners.
Partners, and so you called them joint ventures back in that day. I call them strategic alliances. I see joint ventures as a subset of strategic alliances because, joint venture, I've got something, you promote it, or you've got something, I promote it. It can be very transactional. But the best relationships go far beyond the transactional side, right? You get to know people and serve them. I'm helping serve your audience with some powerful information, right? It's not a marketing opportunity for me. It's an opportunity to serve your tribe, and that helps you and your tribe, and that's a win-win on my side. So partners are all about who can you build high trust relationships with that have ways to serve you, not necessarily instantly, but ultimately. They could be promotional partners for sure, but they could also be content providers that become part of your program later on. Or they could be people that become advisors to your board. You saw, and I did at this event, we were at several soulful leaders that had tremendous insight and tremendous experience. And in that setting, you had a chance to talk to them one-on-one. Well, I was exchanging a conversation with one of the leaders that was there, who's done over 30 million in sales in our space. And I was sharing a new thing we were testing and the results we were getting, and he was flabbergasted. And I basically said, well, hey, if you want to know how to do it, just give me a call anytime. I'll be happy to share. Well, I sell that advice for $25,000. I'm not going to sell it to this guy. He's a heavy hitter influencer in our space. I'm going to give it to him on a platter, hope he uses it because he'll become a raving fan of Tom and the team that we built. So partners, sometimes we think so transactionally in partners, right? Just promotional partners. That's part of it. But the best partnerships come where you're helping serve their audience or their tribe or that person. And then down the road, they'll serve back, but it doesn't have to be literally a tit for tat reciprocation. There are lots and lots of ways. One of my mentors, Brian Kurtz, says there's 5 ways to get paid. Money is number 5. But especially when we're coaching, we're thinking, well, yeah, but I need to get clients. I need to get clients. Yeah, well, you know what you need? You need a bunch of raving fans in your world more than you need clients, because the raving fans are the ones that can really be game changers going forward. Does that make sense?
I love that. No, raving fan is more important because I noticed even Mark Porteous, once he loves you, he becomes your raving fan. Nancy
Oh my
Jones,
gosh, right?
once she loves you, she talks about you. It's the people who just have that in their personalities. Just, I am a raving fan of you. I'm going to talk you up and I'm going to talk about you all the time and a lot and to everybody.
Yes.
So I love that idea.
And for those of you who don't like to sell stereotypically, it's way better because raving fans do the selling for you.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you met Milana, this coaching, I've told like 4 people about coaching Genie since you and I talked about it. I didn't know you were doing it. I hadn't heard about it. I hadn't heard a thing about it. I should have, but I hadn't. And so you told me about it. I got on the site. I took a look. I'm like, oh, this looks fantastic. And I told 4 people since you and I talked about it. And I have no idea if they become clients or not, but all of a sudden it opened up a whole new world for me to share with other people because I trust your judgment and experience in this space. I haven't even looked at the software yet, but I trust your judgment and experience. And for you and me, that's way more important than the actual software, right? Do you trust their wisdom in that situation? Same with doing interviews like this. You're not going to invite someone in that you don't know what's going on.
So right? when you say partners, do you mean that podcast guesting, the main opportunity is that you get to build a relationship with a potential JV partner or strategic
Yes.
alliance partner.
I say yes to every single podcast interview I can. And I get asked to be booked on shows that have zero audience, brand new shows. I'm part of their first
Wow.
10 or 12. I still say yes. They're transparent. They tell me about it. They're really nervous. Like, you got a big list. I'm pretty sure you wanted to. I can't mail for every person on every show that I'm on, but I can offer great, valuable content, and I can build trust with the host. If you think of it from the point of view of how can you build trust with the host? Well, you can shatter some myths on air. You can give them valuable content. You can have a handout that their tribe benefits from. And it doesn't have to be an opt-in that you capture an email always. In fact,
I
you
mean,
really want to stick out, offer it free without an opt-in, and the people are like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." Right? People think so transactional when they should be thinking, my job is to make you look good. I'm only successful in this interview if every one of you listening says to Milana, "That was awesome. Thank you so much." That's when I look at a call like this, not what is Tom going to get out of it? How many opt-ins is Tom going to get? No, no, no. How can I serve and elevate the host? That's the other part. And I learned this from radio. I mean, if you do radio interviews, this is one of the things that's the same as podcast. Your job is to make the host look good. In radio, we would add to their boss. Their boss, because everyone in radio's got a boss somewhere. In podcasting, it's not to the boss because they usually are the boss. It's
You're the
usually
boss.
the show, right? But your job is to make them look good. Make them look good, not make you look good. And a lot of people have that backwards, right? They're looking to pitch when they get on shows. And you know what happens with that? You don't get invited back. That's for sure.
I want to come back to this in just a moment, but I want to finish the list. So we have patrons, which are your clients, partners, who are your promotional, referral, JV partners, strategic alliance partners. And then you said platforms. What is that about?
Platforms. This is really cool. Do they have a platform where they can elevate you? Sometimes that's a live in-person event, like Mark's event that you and I just came from. Sometimes that's a live virtual event. There's lots of those out there. Sometimes it's a summit, a virtual summit. Sometimes, you started telesummits back in the day. Now they're all on Zoom, but that's still a form of a platform. Sometimes they have collaborative books, right? Sometimes they have a tribe or a high-end mastermind. I make a lot of money speaking, a lot from speaking, especially when I make offers. But if anyone runs a high-end mastermind and they want me to contribute some value to their high-end mastermind, I never charge for that, ever, because the room is filled with fascinating people. Why would I put a barrier to helping fascinating people grow their business? Doesn't make any sense. So think of platforms beyond just the obvious ones, but find out what sort of platforms they have. Any good podcast host will have a pre-interview before you do the interview. Some people call it the green room. Sometimes it's a separate call. Sometimes it's just 5 or 10 minutes before you have your call. And so you want to take advantage of that time to get to know them, right? Ask, who is their audience? Who's this going out to? Like, I found this is going out to the Coach Genie newsletter, right? So that's a type of an audience. It's Milana's raving fans that are on her newsletter. So I'm aware of that as we're talking. How can I make it helpful to all of those people? You need to do the same thing. You want to find out what are the platforms that are there. And guess what? You can do homework. You may not know the person. You can get on Dr. Google, as I like to call it, and do a bunch of homework. And in about 20 minutes, you can learn all sorts of information, good, bad, ugly, about almost anyone nowadays, right? And don't believe everything you see on the internet. I know that's a shock to some of you, but some of that's not exactly accurate. But you can find out all kinds of information very quickly. And when you're a guest, you're not going to put the host on the spot. But what you can do in the green room, say, hey, like, I saw you're involved in this. Do you mind if we talk about that a little bit? Most guests are busy trying to highlight themselves, right? That's not what you want to talk about. You want to talk about how it's a win-win for the audience and your host looks awesome. And I will tell you, those are the people that invite you back and you build more trust with.
You know what's interesting? You said platforms like events, stages, summits, collaborative book. I always consider a podcast as a platform.
Yes.
But if they have zero in the audience, then it's no longer a platform.
Plus, half of the audience is there's 30 downloads an episode. right?
Right.
So even if they have an established track record, that's not super relevant to your contribution. You want to make sure that whoever's listening, I always like to say there's two people listening at any one time, right? That both those people are getting value,
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
But way more important, I can tell you now, I've done over 150 podcast interviews. I've done 2.5 million directly tracked to podcast shows in sales. Every single one of those situations had nothing to do with the audience and everything to do with the host.
Yeah.
It wasn't that the host became a client always. Sometimes that happened, but sometimes it would be the host would then introduce me to someone else. Oh, you've got to meet this person. They're amazing. They're perfect for you. Or they've got a stage. Platforms and partners aren't just the host. It's their circle, right? I had 2 side conversations at this last event we were both at. One person has 800,000 courses they had sold. 800,000 in the life coaching space.
Yes.
Well, I could have been super predatory about it, thinking, oh my God, that's perfect for me. Pounce. Instead, I said, well, what's your biggest challenge? What's your biggest challenge? She said, well, I need someone who can take them once they get off the ground and they start making money to the next level. That happens to be a good friend of mine who happens to be a VIP client and a partner on another project. I have this perfect person for them. I said, oh, I got to put you in touch with Robert. You'll love it. He specializes in taking life coaches from 100,000 all the way up to 1 million, blah, blah, blah. She goes, oh my God, that would be so helpful to me. So now I'm going to connect the two of them. I'm not asking for a piece of the deal. I don't want a piece of the deal. I just want them to help each other. And that, guess what's going to happen to Natalie and Robert? They're both going to think that Tom's an awesome guy, right? And if they end up working together, they're going to help each other grow and profit and have more impact and more influence. Because really, this isn't about the profit. It's about the impact and the influence, right?
Right.
Let's be clear. Income is just a measuring stick. You know that,
So
right?
what's
You make a lot of money.
interesting, I don't say yes to all podcasts. I probably say no to most because I do check them out. And I look, I was trained like, well, you got to check their audience. You got to listen to the podcast, see their style. You got to do this and make sure that you got to discern before you say yes. You say yes to all podcasts
Yep.
because you see it as an opportunity to meet somebody in your space, to build a relationship with the host, not the audience. And then that person potentially can become your partner, your client, or a connection, give you a connection to somebody in their circle. And I love that. I think that is a big aha for me. I hope everybody is listening, sees it the same way. I don't know that I would say yes to all podcasts because, I need some time to eat and live and build my
Well,
own.
I will tell you a little subset, and I appreciate the distinction. I've got a half a day a week where I book those sorts of things.
Okay.
Sometimes it'll be 3 weeks out or 3 months out
Before you can talk to them.
before I can talk to them. It's different if they're clearly a massive influence. I make it a priority and I ask for their link and I book it in. But if it's the other way around, Milana, I just give them a link that only has a set amount of time and they'll come back always. They'll come back always. I can't get a spot until like 4 weeks from now. I'm like, yeah, I'm busy. And by the way, it doesn't negatively affect the relationship at all because they're grateful they're going to get a chat. So I'm not saying you should do everyone everywhere. Like there needs to be, you got to have a good feel, right? If the content, if it had something to do with crypto, I wouldn't do it because I don't understand it. I
They
don't
have to be a
get
good
it.
match topic wise, and they have to be kind of in the same industry space.
I have to be able to help the host. I have to be able to help the host. That's the way I look at it. Not their audience, but the host. If I can help the host, I'll do it. We're joking at this event about woo woo, right? And crossover woo woo. And I'm a crossover woo woo. I'm not full woo. I'm not full not woo. I crossover. I go back and forth. But one of my skills, one of my superpowers is to be able to market woo woo things to non woo woo people. And so for me, I'll get these, amazing woo podcast people that on the surface, there's no direct fit for me whatsoever. But I know if we have a fascinating conversation, I can dig in and help them reach more people in that interview. And therefore, I don't mind that little bit of contribution. Plus, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun meeting new people and learning what makes them tick and how they serve. Now, I will say I do manage my time on those ones and block it off. And that also is where I do all of my secondary JV meetings too. So it's not just podcasts, it's all kinds of people competing for those little spots on the calendar. And so often it's booked a month or two ahead. Like right now, I know because I had someone, I gave them my link at that event. They can't get anything till May.
Yeah,
And
totally.
we're recording this right now. And it's like, yeah, I'm booked. I'm booked. And they're like, okay, I'll book it now. I'll book it now.
So for the sake of time, I have one important question for you.
Yes.
I've been trying to get on podcasts, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not getting a lot of traction. And I don't know, my team has been kind of working on it, pitching me, not always getting response, sometimes not finding the right podcast. Like so far, podcast guesting has eluded me a little bit. I've been on a lot of podcasts over the years, but not in a systematic way. And I'd love to pick your brain on that a little bit. But before you answer that, how can people learn more about you? I know we're going to put a link in the email.
Yeah, we're putting a link to this directory of 958 of the top podcasters and how they want to be pitched, along with their contact information. So
Oh,
if you want
wow.
to be on shows, and I'm assuming if you listen this far in, you are wanting to be on shows, you definitely want to download that directory. It's awesome. It's amazing. And you'll absolutely love it. So thank you for that. And my contact information, the company name is in there. You guys can connect with me. The favorite way I like new people to connect with me is on LinkedIn. Just search my last name, Matzen. There's only 17 people with that last name in North America, and half are related to me. And there's only 2 Toms that are like that. So you'll recognize me and connect. Happy to talk about that.
Perfect. Yeah. So the link is going to be below the video or in the article below the video. And it's really the directory of almost 1,000 podcasts that you can reach out to. So what am I doing wrong, Tom? Why are podcasters not really returning my call?
Yeah. So there's 2 parts. I'm going to give you the simple way and the more advanced way to improve this, because they're quite different. The more advanced way comes into play when you're dealing with higher, bigger audience, bigger authority podcast hosts. The simple way is creating what's called a media one sheet. Every one of you need to do this. It's typically 1 or 2 pages long, sometimes a bit longer, but clarity of thought helps. You can get templates out there. Canva's got templates. Lots of people have templates. We give away templates at our big icon maker event. Like there's lots of ways to get templates if you don't know what a media one sheet is. But a media one sheet basically says, why would I want to have you on my show? And why are you qualified? And in the media one sheet, the simple strategy is you need to share something that's not what everyone else is sharing. If you're the same as everyone else, there's no reason to have you on the show, right? So you want to shatter myths, all right, or shatter commonly held beliefs or challenge common strategies. So, for example, we talked about it's not about the audience, it's about the host and the high trust relationship. Well, most people talk about getting shows because you're going to be able to get all these audiences, right? So even in our green room, you're like, oh, that's like completely different. That's really neat. We're going to talk about that, right?
Yes.
Right. So that's the first thing with your media one sheet, a simple one. Just remember that your media one sheet's job is to show them why you versus all of the other choices. The more advanced strategy is important for someone like you, Milana, and for anyone that's got a more established business. You have to build an actual media kit. And the media kit needs to include audio and video clips of you at work. It needs to include much more detailed evidence about how awesome you are and why you're awesome. It needs to include testimonials, success stories. All of these other elements need to be built in a whole media kit. And then realize you're not pitching the show host. You're pitching a producer that screens you, and they have what's called a rejection committee. Most people don't know this, but the big shows get 1,000+ requests a week. The really big shows, 1,000+ requests a day. So if you're like, oh, I'm going to get on Joe Rogan. I have this really unique idea to get on Joe Rogan. Joe's not even going to see you until the rejection committee accepts you far enough along that someone does homework and checks you out. And that's where you need your media kit. You need your media kit. So you need to take time to develop that. That it requires those assets to be put together in an easy to share way. Good news is with the internet, it can just be a folder in the cloud. For most of you that have your personal speaker site, it should be, tommatzen.com/media, right?
Mhm.
Leshinsky.com/media. So you know what it is. You can give it out easily. And if you're ever on stage and you're sharing it, it's easy to share. But it also tells the producer, this is a pro. And on that site, you've got headshots, high res, medium res, low res. You got logos, high res, medium res, low res. You got stage shots, high res, medium res, low res. Do the work for them. Do the work for them so they can look at this and go, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. This is a professional, right? It's a professional. Nowadays, everybody wants to do everything electronically and have physical cards. Business cards have disappeared. I still have physical business cards. Why? Because if I share it with someone now, they go, oh, that's different. Good for you. It sticks out. Well, guess what? Part of the media kit should be a folder with these samples in it that you physically send. That along with your book. Most people that are doing this seriously have a book or two or three. You send a book and a media kit, you're going to stick out from the crowd, especially if it's related to the topic that you want to share and you want to stick out. So the good news, the simple one is the media one sheet. Everyone should have that, right? Take an hour in Canva, create one. You've got it electronically, you can send it. At a minimum, that will stick you out from the crowd of 80% of the other people. But if you're going for the bigger shows, you're going to have to do the work of having a full speaker site and a media kit within that.
Is the email or the pitch, that initial message that you're sending to the host, it links to the media kit, but in order for them to click on it, they need to be interested in the first place. So what do you say in the actual email? Do you give them your unique topics? I mean, I have a unique story and everybody tells me, just tell them like, well, I'm not the only one who came from Soviet Union. That's not that unique anymore.
So here's the secret there. Great question. And I love this one. And I learned this from Cheryl Plouffe, our partner on Icon Maker Live. They actually don't care about you or your story.
Oh.
They care about, or in this case, they have bigger audiences. They care about their audience and how you can serve their audience. So the way to get that person's attention is watch a recent show, watch a show from a year or two ago, and watch a show early on. Listen to, in this case, right? 3 different shows, 3 different periods. Figure out some unique common elements, and then craft your subject around stuff that matters to them in their format. There is nothing more attention getting than saying, part of the reason I think I'd be a great guest is a couple of years ago, you did a show on insert topic and you talked about problem and challenge. I can help your audience overcome that. In fact, when you first launched your show, you also did a show on insert topic and blah, 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 blah. Now, does that take a little while? Yeah, it takes a little while because you want to watch at least 3 or listen to at least 3 shows, a recent one from a little while ago and a long while ago. Of course, you can outsource that to VA.
I was thinking about that.
Right? You can get transcripts made now like this, right? You can upload it and get a transcript and you can sort through it. But that's what the pros do. The pros don't pitch a generic offer. They pitch a customized opportunity to maximize the impact for their audience. And that's really the home run. And I say that with respect and admiration because I don't do that. I don't do that very often. There's a couple times like when I'm like, oh, I really, really want this, then I'll take the time to do that. But the people that are really good at it, the people that host their own shows, they know if they get a customized offer that someone's taking the time to do that, then at least they'll listen to your presentation. The rejection committee, again, it's not the host. On the big shows, it's not the host at all. When you do TV, same thing. When you're doing TV interviews for any big shows, morning shows, Good Morning America, even any of the big shows, you don't even talk to the host until you're on the show. They don't even know who they're interviewing until the day, usually, of the show. This is all driven by producers and by assistants to producers. Same thing happens. So the more you can customize it, the more you can personalize it to their, and nowadays you can find out, say, what have they been talking about the last 3 months? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, how can I tie into that subject? Is there a way for me to tie into that subject matter? Right. So we're going into politics season as we record this, right? In America, there's going to be a massive amount of political controversy. You don't want to be politically controversial unless you're targeting that sort of audience. But is there a way to hook in? Maybe part of what you teach is for us to respect the other person's point of view and disagree without being disagreeable. Well, that can go on any show, right?
That's right.
What happened? The US Senate used to do that. No one does anymore. Do your clients need that? Like maybe that's your hook. They call it a hook when you're pitching someone, right? What's the hook for them to go, oh, I like that. And my personal experience, Milana, is the best thing is to shatter a myth or a common belief that even the host believes.
You did it for me. You did it for me.
Yes, exactly, right?
I was instantly hooked. We have to wrap this up. It was a very enlightening conversation. Thank you, Tom Matzen, the new owner. You actually own New Media Summit at this point.
New Media Summit, Podcast Magazine, Icon Maker Live. Yeah, we're super honored to take Steve Olsher's legacy and build on it and hopefully make it even better.
And I do remember the podcast directory, how hot it is and how everybody really needs to have it and wants to have it. So we're going to put a link in. My name is Milana Leshinsky. I am the founder of Coaching Genie, the platform for group coaching program. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I am excited to hear from people because I don't interview a lot of people outside of the virtual summits that I do. This is like a one-of-a-kind interview that I wanted to do with you, Tom. So thank you so much again. And it was just a pleasure seeing you last week. And I know we'll work together again. So thank you again, everybody.
You're most welcome. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Appreciate it. Let her know if you got some value. Let her know. That's a way to build trust with her.
Oh, okay. That's a great tip. Thank you, Tom. Bye, everybody.